Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to NetworkChuck. Got a stream today where we're talking about something I hate, and I think many of you probably hate. Although I saw some of you sickos actually like this stuff. Network documentation. I'm not about that, but Jeremy Cioara is, and I'll introduce him here in a moment. And we're going to talk about a new course he's actually completed, and it's amazing, on this new thing called NetBox. And it's not really new. It's been around for a bit, but it's new for me, and I think it could solve a huge problem. So on the stream today, just real quick, let me know if you can hear me. And we're doing two things. First, we're going to announce the winner of the Raspberry Pi contest. We'll do that probably in about 10 or so minutes. And then we're going to talk about NetBox and how this can help us with network documentation. So anyways, I've got Mr. Jeremy Cioara on right now. Jeremy, say hello.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm hoping everybody can hear me as well. And I will say I've been watching the chat, and there's a bunch of people here from Romania, I think. And someone asked, "Is Jeremy Romanian?" Yes, I am. I'm actually my dad was born in Transylvania, if you can believe that, which explains a lot about my vampire ways and things of that nature. But he actually. Moved here, had me, so I'm the first Romanian born in America, I guess you could say. So good to be here with you, Chuck, and I'm excited. To hang. It's been forever since we hung out on a live chat. I think too long. So this will be fun.
It's been a long time, and I was excited to see that you were working on this thing called NetBox, which I've heard about, but I didn't really know what it was. And when you told me it would help me with network documentation, I'm like, oh. Well, you got my attention now because I hate it, and as many people hate it. I hate it because, and if you're new to IT or if you don't know about this, when you design a network, when you design anything in IT, it's important to document, map it out, write down your stuff, make it look nice and neat. I don't like that because I just like doing things. I like just doing and then let someone else deal with the clerical administrative work. I hate that. But anyways, tell me about this mystery thing that's supposed to be awesome.
Yeah. Well. I will say, Chuck, you're not alone with hating network documentation. Actually, I'm gonna move your picture right here, so I'm not looking at you here and then looking over here at everybody else. So there we go. So you're not alone in hating network documentation. Everybody does, sort of. Everybody is like, oh no, documentation is good. I love having it, but the challenge with documentation is it goes something like this. It's like, okay, we put together a design. We kind of have an idea of what we're going to do. And then we do what engineers do, which is doing. Like the fun part is the actual configuration, the implementation, all that. We roll out a network. We implement 5 new routers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then when it's said and done, we're like, okay, now I need to document. But the problem is it's midnight when we're done, 2 a.m. It's something like an outage window or something like that. And you're like, well, yeah, I'll do that tomorrow. And you do. That's the thing is you wake up tomorrow, you get in, and you get like 30 minutes into it, and it's like, yeah, this just doesn't have the same feel. Like you're like, and then you just kind of start going for them. You start making excuses in your head. You're like, oh, well, that's good enough. Like, it's totally not complete. But
I'll remember that, right? Like you do all these changes. Like I'll remember that when I have to go fix it. You totally. Never do. You never remember it.
Right. Totally. And then like if you work on a team now, if you're alone, you're going to be your own worst enemy. You're like, okay, exactly what you said, Chuck. You're like, yeah, I'll remember it, and you probably do most of the time, which is why you get away with it. You're like, oh yeah, it's right here. That's right. Or you use CDP and rediscover that neighbor again, or something. But I think where it goes is, if you work on a team, which a lot of the people that are chatting in there right now do, you're like, okay, I got to do this for the team. But again, it's like working out to where you're like, yeah, I'm gonna do 50 push-ups a day. At my company, we did a 1-month workout challenge, just 50 push-ups a day, and like none of us made it. It was 1 month, just do 50 push-ups, and not even at the same time. Like you could wake up and be like, oh, okay, I'm done. And just like you just don't. And that so why is NetBox awesome? NetBox is awesome because it puts the documentation as part of the doing.
Which sounds I mean, it sounds fantastic just off of that. So you're doing documentation while you're doing the stuff.
totally.
By the way, guys, you got your coffee. Jeremy's got his coffee. I've got my coffee. If you want some coffee, networkchuck.coffee. Check it out. Anyways, go ahead, Jeremy. Shameless plug.
When Chuck started his coffee thing, he sent me a gift certificate. I'm like, bam, order it. And so right before this live stream, he's like, you got your coffee, right? I'm like, oh, yeah. So let me explain moving the documentation to the doing. So before you get to configuring your devices, you have to know what you're doing, right? You're not just going to log in and be like, oh, let's just make up an IP address. Oh, 10. Like you're gonna think, okay, I need a name for this device. Or as soon as you get to that configuration, you'll be like, oh yeah, what was the host name? And you figure it out, right? It depends how small or large of an organization and how many processes you have sitting around you. But it's one of those things where you kind of there's some core stuff that you need. So the idea of NetBox, and you'll see it starting to be proclaimed in a lot of the internet searches if you look at it. So first off, I want to make sure, Chuck, I'm all over the place, but I want to make sure people know I'm not selling something here. I'm not like, you got to go buy NetBox. It's open source. That's why I'm so it's free. That's what I'm saying. It's like, it's free. It's amazing. So first, I'm knocking my computer over here. So first off, just like, take a step back. I'm not like, you got to go buy NetBox. I'm not. It's free.
But I do want to add this though.
Yeah.
Usually free and open source things, they're fantastic, but they do have a bit of a hurdle to kind of start using. Like you want someone to like go, okay, here's how you start. And that's kind of what you did with your course, which is really cool. So, and by the way, guys, as Jeremy's explaining this and proclaiming how awesome this is, he does have a course. Link below. We got a half off coupon. I think the coupon is like NetBox is awesome. Get it for $10, normally $20. Anyways, continue, Jeremy.
Yeah, no, that's actually great. And I mean, for $10, come on, come on,
do it,
do it. Like cup of coffee or NetBox training that took Jeremy months to create. So it's like that is the problem with open source stuff. Is it's kind of like, it's up to you. Good luck, figure that out, right? And so that's why I some of the stuff I started doing, I'm like, man, if there could just be some sweet training around this. And Chuck, you got me off topic again. But if there could be some sweet training around this, we could make this awesome. Like it could be free and it could be awesome. So okay. So yeah, link below. Check that out. 50% off. It's great. So NetBox. So the idea of NetBox goes along with the idea of the only real way to do network documentation, create network diagrams, enter the information that a network needs, is to do it manually, which I know flies in the face of our microwave world. I mean, Chuck, I know you've seen like 1,000 things, like discover your network for free. Just click a button and bam, it discovers
it'll scan your subnet and it'll auto log into all your devices. And
Totally. Have you ever tried one of those things?
Yes, and it'll pick up like maybe 75% of what I have, and then I have to still go in there and correct everything, and then before long, I've already spent as much time as I would have just manually doing it, cleaning it up.
And I will say that straight up, there is no automagic way of doing network documentation. Not if you want it to be. I mean, usually those things it'll like discover. It'll be like, here's your diagram, and there's just like a clump of stuff. You're like, okay, and you're like,
that's how it's supposed to be over here. Let me scoot that over. Yeah, it's just
right. It's like, here, slop on the table, and then you end up, you're spending more time correcting what it automatically did than doing it right. So the idea of NetBox is if the only real good solid way is to make to do network documentation is manually, then make NetBox. I'm going to say a big phrase here. It's 3 words. The source of truth, meaning you've got all kinds of stuff in your environments. You've got network monitoring systems. You've got accounting systems. When you buy a new router, for example, it goes into an inventory system that's going to depreciate that value over time. And it's going to be like, bing, that thing's 5 years old. It's time to upgrade. Time to replace that thing if you're on top of it. I mean, you've got systems all over the place. And the challenge is, I mean, and I've done this. 10 years ago, I created a managed service provider, and I went through so many, and I know some of the people that are at my company are listening to me right now, and they'll be like, they'll nod with this solemn, like, here goes Jeremy. Like, I'd get up and I'd be like, all right, guys, we've got a new system and it's going to be awesome. And I'm like, and we'll document it here. Like, I can't tell you how many times we documented and redocumented and wrote processes and blah, 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 blah.
Oh.
And the problem is, as soon as you start having different systems with the same information, you're doomed. I will tell you that right now. You are doomed. As soon as you've got that router that you create, in your documentation, and it's got the IP address in there, and then you go to your monitoring system, you add it in there, and then you go to your inventory system, you add it in there. As soon as you start, you're doomed, because there's going to be something that you forget, something that gets out of drift. Chuck, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, anytime it depends on you remembering to do something, you already have a mistake, because you're going to forget. Even if you're the most meticulous, most amazing person, you will forget something without a doubt.
Yep, and I'll tell you, Jeremy tried to fix this issue through. I'm like, I could tell you so many stories. So I went on my process kick. I'm like, okay. We've got all these different systems. I'm going to create the perfect process. Okay. Step 1, you create the router here. Step 2. And I'm like, it's a checklist. Everybody follow the checklist. But in the end, like, it crushes the human soul. Like, it's like, you must, and it becomes like, I don't. So okay. So what's different with NetBox? If you have, actually, Chuck, hang on. I'm going to try something. Can you see this?
We can
piece of paper?
Yeah, we can see your piece of paper. That's so cool.
Oh, man. This is going to be brilliant. All right. Right here. The magic circle.
You're making me look like a fool, man. I got to implement something like this now.
Oh, man. To do this piece of paper took me so long. So don't feel bad. So NetBox, right? If this is the source of truth, I'll just put SOT right there, where you manually, this is you, right? You manually go in and enter that data right there. You can use the new world of APIs. And Chuck, I mean, everybody's talking now like network automation, and they say dumb things like, it's gonna be the death of the network engineer. It's gonna like oh, we're all gonna. No, it's not. Network automation is the life of the network engineer, because you can now take stuff that would take you days and keeping things up to date, and you can tie it all together with APIs. That's application programming interfaces. It's the language of love between applications. So let's say you've got a monitoring system down here. Let's just say it's PRTG. That's my favorite. I love those guys over in Germany. And so when I add my router, let's just say I add a switch. I've been saying router, so let's add a switch, right? And I say it is 10.1.1.50, right? That's its IP address. Now what I can do is automatically, through an API, have it pull from my source of truth into PRTG, automatically add all the needed sensors that I need for that switch, to where and then IP address change. I change it in my source of truth. The API ties it together and updates the thing, so I don't break all of the sensors. And then over here we tie it into our inventory system, and we have in our inventory system, and you can buy them, you can make them, whatever. And automatic things like brand new switch, 5 years until we send a notification via email and all this kind of stuff. So I mean, Chuck, I know I'm talking about a NetBox, but we're kind of falling down the slide into full-on network automation. But that's what it is. So,
and that's why we people who are watching may not be familiar with how IT departments work, but that's normally what we have to do. Is we have all these separate systems we have to keep track of. Not one program will do everything we need. So we'll have an inventory system, we'll have an IP address management system, we'll have a monitoring system, and having something that can update all of those at the same time, it's a game changer, and that's where automation comes in. Anyways, I'll stop interrupting you. Continue.
No, please interrupt. And as a matter of fact, Anthony, a super chat I just saw coming in, said, hey, how does NetBox apply to MSPs? Oh, it's scrolling off. That have multiple customers. Stop chatting, everybody. Anthony's question's going by. That has multiple customers, that have small business, things like that. Glad you asked. I mean, so the cool thing about it, I'm actually, Chuck, hang on. Chuck, I'm all over the place already. It happened. Like Anthony. So nonetheless,
Yeah,
what
hold
you
on.
can do.
What we should do real quick, actually. So real quick, guys who just tuned into the stream, because everyone's just kind of flowing in. We're talking about NetBox, our solution to network documentation. It is network automation. Real quick, Jeremy, can you just show us what it looks like? Like let's just see it, and then we'll continue with your amazing drawing. But show me what it looks like.
That would be even better. Hang on, I've got to move your head out of the way. All right, here we go. So Chuck, can you see this? I think I don't know if it fits in the little square right there. Are we good?
I made it bigger.
Maybe. Oh, kind of. Oh, okay. Hang on. Oh, you can make it bigger?
Yeah. It's bigger for you. It's bigger for people now. Yeah, it's bigger.
Look at that, Chuck. Does more than coffee. So this is what NetBox is, right? So right here. So let me hit Anthony's question, because I want to make sure he gets a good answer there. Right. So right up here you have sites, you have regions. So these names are literally just names. If I were running a managed service provider where I had multiple customers, instead of creating a region to where, when you and I, Chuck, think region, we think
call manager,
North America, right? Texas, you're your own region. So what I can do is I can say, I'm trying to think, Nabisco. Let's just say as one of our customers. So I can add that. We've got the Keebler Elves. Keebler, right? And great. So we've got these two regions, and notice it automatically took us to the sites. It's saying, okay, for Keebler, now what sites do you have? But hang on, before we go there, I'm going to go back to the regions. So there's my two regions. So if I was a managed service provider, instead of using regions as regions, I could make them the customers, and then I could go under, for instance, Keebler. Notice it takes me right to the site and say, okay, I'm going to add in a site, and so I add my first site for Keebler, and this would be, and I'll show you a lot more with this. Let me actually hold off on that, but I think that answers Anthony's question. But this gives you kind of the sneak peek of what I'm gonna Chuck, I'm gonna take him through a whole tour of NetBox, and by the time we're done here, you're gonna be like, okay, got it. It's gonna be good, and then you're gonna be like, that $10 would totally be worth it to get the rest of all the puzzle pieces.
Oh yeah, it's a steal. But yeah, buy the course. But anyways, speaking of that, here in about, I'll give it maybe 10 minutes. I'm going to announce the winners of the Raspberry Pi giveaway. Also, we're going to give away 10 copies of this course. So you have to be quick for it. You have to be right here and quick and fast. It's happening right now. Anyways, just keep that in mind, guys. Jeremy, continue.
Okay. So yes, NetBox is okay. Just went all over the place. It is designed to be the one place. It's the one time you manually enter things. So let me take one more step into what we were saying at the beginning. How do you turn documentation into doing? Before you ever deploy anything, you can literally set it up in NetBox. And then one of the things that you could do, for example, is you could, through an API, link NetBox to maybe a configuration generator. I mean, one of the things that you'll figure out before long is you are doing the same thing again and again and again in the world of deployment. I mean, instead of deploying one switch, you're deploying 50 switches, right? So you create your template configuration, and when you add it right here, you just put the little variables in. You've done stuff like that before, and boom, it automatically generates the configuration of that switch. So part of the doing is literally putting the switch into NetBox, and then it generates the configuration for you. Again, Chuck, this is what I'm talking about when I'm talking about network automation. And people are like, the network engineer is dead. No, network automation is how the network engineer scales so much bigger and so much faster and becomes so much more critical to life every day. So,
I feel like automation is just another word for, hey, we got a new software update for all the way we do things. It's just a new way to do it. Mm-hmm. It's so cool. So NetBox, is it using just Python or integrating with Python to integrate with these boxes, or is it using Ansible or something?
Yeah, it actually was built on Python as a language. Again, it's open source and all the APIs are open. So this is where, when you hear all the network engineers are going to become coders, not necessarily. But they'll know enough to be able to do things like taking, URLs and calls from NetBox and saying, okay, when that happens, let's pull that, and then this is where, I mean, Chuck, you're in the Linux world, you know exactly.
Yeah, like learning how to like really, when people say, "Oh, I have to become a developer," no. It's going to be just learning how to deal with data, learning how to parse it and get it to where computers can play with it and like it. That's pretty much that's just getting in the middle of that that's all you have to know. Anyways, I'm sorry. Yeah. Continue.
No, it's good. It's good, and that's it. I mean, you build a Linux server, a Linux instance, right in the middle, and all that guy is just a little engine. It is the glue that ties all these APIs. I mean, it's NetBox isn't the thing. So just to give you an idea of how this works. Hang on. Okay, we can see the paper, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So NetBox is not the thing that goes out and says, "Hey, I'm going to notify PRTG there's a new thing." This is where you'll have a Linux instance in the middle. So we'll have Linux box right here. And this is where you'll go on here and create a little Python script. Now, again, when people say I'm a developer because I know Python, it's like, no, you're not. But I mean, it's like a developer. When I think of a developer, it's like somebody who just sits and stares at the screen all day coding. Oh, okay. Code. They're literally building a software application. The way network engineers use it is they use Python as a scripting language that says, okay, when every 5 seconds, let's just say, you set up a little timer, automatically run a little script that goes and checks and says, is there any new things here? Oh, there is? Oh, great. Okay. Then what's new? And you can do whatever. I mean, it's coding. If you can dream it, you can do it, right? And so it's you got a new switch right here. Okay. Well, based on the script, I'm going to call that switch, and I'm going to, make another call to PRTG, which has APIs as well. And this APIs are going to be what tie all the systems together, where it's going to create that and run it off of a certain template inside of PRTG. It's super exciting to where the world is at your fingertips. So Chuck, if you think it's good, I can dive in and show people like from soup to nuts how to get started with NetBox in like 10 minutes. You game for that?
Yeah, I totally am. But before we do that, I'm going to do two things. First, I'm going to announce the winners of our Raspberry Pi contest. If you don't know this already, guys, I'm giving away 2 Raspberry Pis. Not the 2 gig, not the 4 gig. No, it's the 8 gig Raspberry Pi. Here's the broken one. If you guys remember me cutting this one up. Rest in peace. It was already broken.
Is that what they're getting? Is that?
Nice. Yeah, actually. It's great because we can have 4 winners. No, so I'm giving away 2 Raspberry Pi kits, 8 gigs. It comes with everything you need to build and play with whatever. And in my example, I had VMware. Anyways, I've already picked the winners. Here we go. Winner number 1 is Jesse, I think it's Jesus, from Brazil. So congrats. I'll actually just add that in the chat real quick.
Congrats, Jesse. That's awesome. I just looked. I didn't realize there was 1,200 people watching. 1,200 people.
1,200
awesome.
people. It's amazing. Yeah. It's amazing. And winner number 2, hailing from actually somewhere really close to me, North Richland Hills, Texas, we got Josh Hall. Congrats, Josh. I'll throw your Twitter tag in the stream real quick. There we go. 2 winners of the Raspberry Pi. I will reach out to you guys to get that to you. If you don't already have one, you should get one. I got links below in the description. Raspberry Pis are amazing. I've got about 15 of them in my house right now, doing an assortment of things. I've got too many. Anyways, and also real quick, what we're going to do now is we're going to give away some of Jeremy's course, the NetBox course. So what he's about to go through now on the stream is just the initial, probably the first half of the first video in your series.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this is just scratching the surface in this video. If you want to go deeper, here's the course. I'm giving away 10 of these right now. Now this link is going to take you to the course, and you have to sign up and just claim it. The first 10 people to do this will get it. So check that chat. Be watching it right now. Ready? Set. Go.
And that's crazy.
It's going to happen fast.
I'm blowing up the internet. So literally, I'm assuming 1,253 people just went in and click. So 10 of whoever has the shortest name and the fastest fingers, literally right now will get that course.
That's
free.
Exactly right. Yeah. So it's probably already gone. But for those of you who missed it, which is about 1,200 of you. minus
Ish.
10. Minus 10. We get half off. So I'll post that in the stream right now. This will get you half off.
Cool. And Chuck, I mean, this, I just want people to catch, why are we doing all these things together? This thing right here could be a Raspberry Pi, right?
Someone actually asked that question. I don't know if you saw that. Can this run on a Raspberry Pi?
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, all Raspberry Pi is a stripped down Linux instance that you can do, again, whatever you want. So if you could, take one of Chuck's free Raspberry Pis that he just gave out, right? I mean, they're typically like 50 to $100 to get one of those things, right? And you could sit and put that in your environment, again, write some scripts to pull things from NetBox into PRTG. Now, everything I'm saying now, and this is the fun part, everything I'm saying is, and I guess that's what I do. It's what you do, Chuck. You make it look easy, and it is once you know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's like, like how
the hours we go through behind the scenes, parsing through what might not be the best instructional materials to make it digestible. Like we turn it into a microwavable meal, basically, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's a lot of why we do what we do. But think about subnetting. Everybody on here, I'm assuming, has at least heard of it or now knows it, right? Now you look at it, you're like, oh, easy, right? If you've got it, but how many? So that's one of the reasons I created the NetBox series, and that's where I'm going to keep going with it and show a lot of that. Here's how you glue it all together. So, all right. So Chuck, you said two things. Did you get your two things?
Yeah. So we gave away the Raspberry Pis. We announced the winners. Actually, if you're curious about who won, I'll make sure I have the winners announced on the page if you go check out the contest page if you entered the contest. And we also just gave away 10 copies of Jeremy's NetBox course, which soup to nuts shows you how to get started and get going with your network. It's open source, it's free, and the course will get you there. So if you didn't win that, 50% off in the description below. Now, Jeremy, I think you're green lighted to go ahead and tell us how do we get started right now, which is basically just the first half of the first video in your series.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give you a flyby of how to get started with NetBox. So first off, installing it is a thing, and I think one of the most frustrating things is there is a beautiful write-up. It's like netbox.readthedocs.io. Like there's a whole domain just dedicated for that, and the documents on how to set it up are beautiful, and they totally blow up, somewhere, and I think it's even more frustrating because they are so beautiful. It's like a step-by-step guide that when it doesn't work, you're like, what did I do? It must be me. So you go through it in just hours and hours. So one of the first things, and that's one of the first videos in the series, is how to install NetBox in less than 10 minutes. And I show you how to do it using Docker, which some of you guys are like, yeah. Docker.
Because you have to learn that right now, right?
Yeah.
Right
that's
now?
Right. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yes, learn Docker right now, and you will learn it in that second video. So let me show you. Okay, so you got NetBox installed. Here you are. You're sitting staring at NetBox. What's the first thing that you do? Well, the beauty of NetBox is it's so free form. They focus on the core features. Like you can see, like over here is IPAM, IP address management, organization, sites, data center infrastructure management. That's what all these things are. It's all about the core, because one of the things that they aim to do is it's better to have fewer features, fewer things that you're documenting, and everybody does it, versus having all this kind of stuff, every option in there, and it becomes so complex that nobody even wants to touch it. That's the problem with a lot of the other IP address management systems, is they added way too many features. So you can get started. Like if you're like, man, I just have an IP address, you can go in and add, I just want to start by adding an IP address. You can go that way, and you can add an IP address and then build from there, literally from the ground level. But the right way to do it, if you want to start it and kind of go, okay, I've got a system to this, is to start off by creating your sites. Right now, I added one here. This, by the way, you can let me shrink this screen down a little bit. Hang on, I'm gonna pull up my screen so I can see what you're seeing. So I'm gonna shrink this down a little bit. You can see this is a little internal instance of NetBox. Matter of fact, tell you what. Oops.
Oh, me.
I know. Sorry, Chuck, you're right there. So if you want to follow along right now, there is an NetBox hang on. Whoa, oh shoot, what is it?
It's actually in the description of the video. So guys, if you want to follow along, it's there.
Yes. What is it? NetBox demo. That's what it is. NetBoxdemo.com. If you go here, there is somebody that stood up a NetBox instance that literally every night kind of resets just so you can try this out. So if you want to dive in here, and it's going to be crazy with 1,200 people all creating conflicting changes, but hey, it's free, right? Netboxdemo.com. So
yeah, let's try it. Let's try it and see if we can take it down. Just everyone use it.
Take it down. Denial of service. So right here, let's just say I'm going to start off with the regions. So I'm going to say, before I was answering Anthony's question, Keebler and Nabisco. So I'm going to get these guys out of here. So Chuck, let's just say that you and I decided to do my dream. Believe it or not, I know this is going to sound wacky, but I'm dead serious. I have always wanted to work at a coffee shop. Be a barista. Be the guy who's like taking the order. I know it sounds dumb.
No. And to this day, that's like my second favorite job. I worked at Starbucks. It's amazing.
I would love to do that. So let's just say, let's say your coffee thing takes off, and we create Chuck's Coffee, right? So I'm going to start off by creating the regions for Chuck's Coffee. We'll say we've got Arizona, which was the 48th state in the union, and Texas. State number, Chuck, do you know it? Do you know what state you were?
I have no idea.
28, right? So there we go. So we now actually have two regions, Arizona and Texas. And the first thing that everybody should do when you get into NetBox is add your site. So let's say we've got a site in Dallas, Chuck's Coffee Dallas. Right, and you can see it automatically creates a slug here. Now, what this is you can describe it a URL-friendly shorthand. A lot of times when you're referencing things via API polls and things like that, you'll use the slug to reference it because obviously the apostrophe, the space, the friendly name up here is not very friendly when it comes to coding. So this is where you can say, okay, this is actually in the Texas region that we just created. Now I want to make sure everybody knows, NetBox was created for data center documentation. That's where it originally came from. The guy who created it, also named Jeremy Stretch, from I can't remember where
Network
he worked,
to Code.
That's where he works now.
Oh, yeah, okay.
His previous employer, DigitalOcean, that's what it was.
Yeah. They're the cloud provider, right? Like they do sell VPSs and stuff.
Bingo. So he went in there and he created this utility open source for them. They were like, yeah, do that, have fun. So then he went to Network to Code, and now this is his full-time thing, is adding new features to this. So that's when you see facility, things like that, autonomous system number. If you're running BGP out of that data center, you can. Time zone. Well, Chuck, you are, what is it? Central.
Central, yeah.
Central. U.S. Central, right there. So description, if you want to do that. So you can go down in the list. You can notice you've got all of these different fields. You can fill them in or you can skip them. You've got name, slug, and status. Those are the only required things. And again, single source of truth. If you've got other databases that have physical addresses, if you've got inventory systems, you've got all that. That's where putting it all in NetBox one time. And having all the other systems pull from, I didn't even talk about accounting. Accounting needs all this stuff, right? To bill, to deduct, to depreciate. So you can put all of this in there, and it's got all the required fields for them, right? So for now, I'm just going to add the site. So I'll hit create and add another, right? So we'll say site number 2 is Chuck. I'm going to buy into your franchise. It's Chuck's Coffee, Phoenix. I'm running one. I'm living the dream. Phoenix. Right here, we actually have our own time zone, thanks in Arizona. If you didn't know that, we never changed for daylight savings time. So what just happened on November 1st did not happen for us. Didn't exist. So I click on create, and now take a look at this. I've got sites. So notice right here. Oh man, I threw Phoenix inside of Texas. Look how. So first off, look how fast this thing's responding. 0 load time, just update, bam, bam, bam. And even on the demo one, if we haven't crashed it with denial of service, you'll be able to see just how fast this is. So you can see, there's Dallas, there's Phoenix. You can see the region that they're in, and over here is this Google-like search thing. So you can just be like, hey, show me everything that's in Arizona. Bam, boom, and it literally moves this fast throughout everything. So we've got Chuck's Coffee in Phoenix. I click on that. This is your hub of building. Right, so Chuck, I just want to make sure. Are you following along so far? All we've done is added 2 regions. Okay, good.
Yeah, we're good.
Now, you go in and add a rack because, of course, Chuck's Coffee and Phoenix would have a rack. Now, I'm going through this piece by piece, right? Add in a rack. Now, a rack literally is rack of equipment. What site is that? It's Chuck's Coffee Phoenix. What is the name? We'll just say this is our coffee MDF rack 1, right? Because our coffee shop has an MDF. It should. Every coffee shop should. So you come down here, if you've got, different roles that you've defined, serial numbers, I mean, you can. How big is the rack? What type of rack? Is it we'll say a 2-post frame. It's all we could fit in the coffee shop. What is the width of the rack? What is the height? 42U, that's the standard rack space. How are the units numbered? Is it, 42 down to 1 or 1 to 42? So you could choose that right there. So click on create and bam, my first rack. It's already there.
So that's pretty cool. So I'm curious to see how it's going to look when you add some devices to it. Is it going to pull in some images of the actual device, or what do we got? Show me.
It depends how far you want to go. I mean, so you can. So I'll show you that. So first off, the order of events. So we've got our rack in our coffee shop in Phoenix. I can now go down here and everybody wants to go to devices, but the first place you want to go is device roles, which sounds really, and it's super simple. Watch this. I'm going to click on add. Let's just say we've got some coffee routers, right? And they are brown, of course. And if this also can track virtualization, VMs and things like that. So what VMs are on what physical hypervisors and so on. This is not a VM, so we'll just say this is for Chuck's coffee routers, right? Great. So now I've got coffee routers sitting up here. Now all of these things that are here, I added. So I want to make sure you guys know these. It's not like NetBox comes with all this stuff. It's up to you to add these in here. You can see how many devices I have of each type, and that's just because this is my little lab instance. I play with this all the time. Now, I also want to know that I want to let you know that we do use this full-time production at my company, Via. We're a managed service provider where we deploy stuff for many customers. So Anthony's question, that's why I was like, oh, Anthony, we do exactly what you're asking, where we have many different customers inside of this, and it's all from a managed service provider sort of thing. So totally, and it we live and breathe this stuff. So that being said, we've got our coffee routers. Okay, so these colors are going to be how it shows up in that rack image that I just showed you. So if you add a device that's categorized with the role of coffee routers, it'll be brown. If you add some power, it'll be orange. So Chuck, when you were saying, does it show like images of the devices? You can have it do that, and I'll show you how to do that. But most people are like, I can Google an image of what it looks like. I want to see, that's where power is. There's where coffee routers are. That's cable management, all those kind of things. So it's color-coded images, right?
That's good. Okay.
Cool. So let me then go, let's go to device types, right? So I'll click down here. Now these are some device types that I was just adding in because that's what I had sitting around the house. I started using this, by the way, for my house. So let's add a new one. So let's say, because I know a lot of people that follow you and I, Chuck, are Cisco fanatics, and learning Cisco. So let's just say I've got Cisco. Now, by the way, I did add these manufacturers right here. So it comes with nothing. So you would go right here to manufacturers, and let me show you. So you could just literally add one in, name. Chuck also manufactures routers, right? So we've got
not a bad idea. Yeah.
Hey, start off with Raspberry Pis. Before long, you'll have routers. So I'll go back to my device types. So I'm going to add in here manufacturer. It's going to be Chuck. It's going to be Cisco, right? And we'll say perfect lab router. For those of you looking for a lab router, Cisco 2801. I still use these in production. Cisco 2801. Part number.
Hold on. You still use these in production?
Do, Chuck? I am. I want to say I'm ashamed to say, but I'm ashamed to say that literally. I mean, this router is literally 20 years old, and it's still handling SIP trunks for a couple of clients. And it's just one of those things where I'm like, we could switch it, but.
Well, because first of all, you don't know what would break, right? But second, those things just last. That's why people buy Cisco. But anyways, sorry, I derailed you, but I just had to stop there for a second. Those 2801s are old.
I will say those Cisco 2801. If you want to know why Cisco, Cisco 2801. Say no more. So, what is the height? Is it full depth? Because the cool thing is, if you say, oh, it's not full depth, you know how switches are kind of skinny, Chuck? Like you could fit stuff on the back of the rack and on the front of the rack. And so NetBox can account for that and do that. If you've got modules and stuff like that that you can put inside of there, or you're putting in a server that has blades and things like that, you can set them up as child. And okay, so Chuck, I'm finally answering your question. That's where you do it.
Okay. Nice, pretty images so you can impress your boss. There you go.
There you go. Yeah, if you want it to look like a router, you can put a router in there. It'll be an orange router. It's fine. And so I'll click on create, right? Now I want to make sure you guys catch where we're at. We've got the site. We had the role, which said this is a coffee router. We've got the device types, and I should have just said 2801. I've got a little double action. No, Cisco 2801, because this is the manufacturer and this is the part number. So so I've got this right here. Now I get to add my components. So I'm gonna be like, okay, it's got a console port. What's it called? Con 0, right? Type DB9, right? Or you can go with USB, whatever kind of serial port you have, or RJ45 actually, if you've got a lot of the Cisco devices with rollover cables, things like that. Mm-hmm. Okay, click on create, and boom, our device type. Now, Chuck, I want to make sure we're not creating devices yet. We're creating the types of devices that we can create, which makes it so much easier when we get to actually creating the devices, right?
Okay, yeah, I'm peaked. I can't wait to see where this goes. Keep going.
Okay, cool. So 2801, we've got power ports, so we'll say, let's just do, okay. So check this out. I'm gonna do plug, and I'll do a bracket 0 through 1, because let's just say we've got redundant power on these, I don't think the 2801 has redundant power, but we'll say it does. So what kind of plug is it? Let's just go with NEMA 115. What is the draw? Why is it asking me all these questions? And notice they're optional. You don't have to. Because NetBox can track power. You can have your UPS over here, and it's rated for this. Oh, I've got this many devices that have a allocated draw of blah, a maximum draw of blah. So you can see if, because they don't always consume the same amount of power based on what they're doing. So you can go in, you can track all that. And so it'll, hey, whoa, you just overwhelmed that UPS. For now, I'll leave that off. So there's our plug. Notice with the little bracket, it automatically created 2 plugs. So let me add one more thing. I'll add interfaces, right? And we'll say this is gigabit Ethernet bracket 0/ and then we'll actually let's do this 0/ bracket. Let's do 0 through 1, right? Bracket. What kind of interface? You
forgot the range command. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh yeah. So I mean, but Chuck, we joke, but think about how painful it would be without that. If you had a switch that had 48 ports, you'd be like next. One command, bam, you just add all 48 ports like that. Magic sauce. Mm-hmm. So what kind of ports are these? They are gigabit Ethernet fixed interface. But you can see this thing. You've got tons of different interfaces.
How do we add that sound to it when we do that?
Yeah, that would be that actually would be a very soothing sound. So you can also have management only ports, things like that. Again, you're kind of seeing the broad strokes that you can go with. And if you look at that, bam, we just created our first 2 interfaces. Again, device type. Now, if you look at the components, you can add additional ports, different bays where you can add child devices, all that kind of stuff. But again, for now, let's go create our device. So
now, can we pause there for a second? Someone just commented this question or this statement. I think it's a good question. They said this is kind of like an open source SDN controller. Would you say it's kind of like that in a way? Because you're kind of automating from this single source of truth, and it's deploying config and kind of maintaining that. So I guess it would kind of be an open source controller / network documentation masterpiece.
I'm kind of going, because it's up to you to glue the puzzle pieces together. NetBox is the source of truth. If you want it to start generating configs, it can do that, and you can integrate it into other open source things. That's some of the training I'm going to be creating around this, and that's also which I got the folks who now do this as a profession, Network to Code. They're the company that hired Jeremy Stretch and said, all you do is build NetBox. That's what they do as a company, is they come along and glue all the different pieces together, create automation. So that's, plug for them. That's what they do. But when it says open source controller, it's kind of like it's like a BYO controller, BYOC, to where it's like, okay, NetBox is the core, it's the source of truth. But now it's up to you to say, let's integrate it with this and that and that and that and that. It's where you could build the controller that works for your company.
Gotcha.
That's the beauty, right? So for example, so like Ubiquity, I love Ubiquity because they make cheap, cool stuff. And so you get some wireless access points, and you say, okay, I'm going to add them to NetBox, and it communicates through an API to the controller that automatically adds them in as Ubiquity, in a Ubiquity controller, if you will, right? So a lot of stuff that we could talk about there, but but it's a great question. I want to make sure everybody catches what that is. Okay, so back here. Chuck, I don't know how you do these live streams for so long. I watch you. I'm like, man, I like
coffee.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm gonna go to the device, right? So let's just add a device, and if you look, this is where we can come up with the device that we're adding in, and we'll call this, and this is where you're naming it. So this is literally the actual name of the device. So we'll say Chuck's Coffee Dallas RT01, right? What is the role? It is a coffee router. What is the manufacturer? It's Cisco. And this, by the way, is just a filter for the stuff down here to where I can be like, Cisco 2801 right there. What is the serial number? It's ASDF 1234 right on the body of the router. Asset tag if you want. I mean, you could keep going, but where's this at? It's going to be in Dallas because it's the Dallas router, right? What rack is it in? Chuck, we didn't add a rack for Dallas. So we're gonna move this to Phoenix because I think that's where I added my rack. So I'm gonna say where's the rack? It's in Phoenix. There it is. Coffee MDF rack 1, rack face front position. Where's it at in the rack? We'll just say let's go with U42. It's at the top. What is the status? Currently active. Cluster tenancy. So again, so much more I could show you on this. But for instance, Chuck, let's just talk about tenancy for a second. In a data center, often, matter of fact, when I went into my first data, actually, you're in a data center too.
I was. I moved it into my house.
Oh.
I've got faster internet at my house.
Right. So you've done it. Did you get a full rack or did you not?
I got a quarter rack.
There you go. Perfect. That perfect demonstration of that tenancy. So you can actually create tenants in a rack. And you can say, okay, the top, 25% of that rack belongs to Chuck. And obviously we would, actually I put a few of them in here, Nestle Pool Service, or we'd have Chuck's Coffee as being one of the tenants. And so you can then set up your billing and say, okay, for this quarter rack, it's going to get billed over there. And so a ton of stuff that we could talk about. So I'm going to create, boom. I've got my first Chuck's Coffee Phoenix router. So I can look at it in the rack. Look at that.
That's cool.
Now, is that the color of coffee that you drink?
Yes. I mean, it's normally more black, but not
right there. I tried to match it. Almost. So yeah, we've got the Phoenix router. It's coffee colored, sitting up there. Now, and this again, I'm showing you the right way to do it. If you just wanted to add an IP address and kind of back into it this way, you could do it that way too. But I can click on that guy, and there's my coffee router. I've got my two interfaces. Oh, what IP address do I want to add? Click the plus sign. Internal. Well, I'm jumping ahead of myself. So this is where you can actually add the IP addresses to the device. You can connect the cables and say, okay, I'm going to connect this interface to, and say, I only have one device at our coffee shop, but that's where I'd put the switch, on this switch, and I'd go to, I think I just connected the router to itself, but and this is where I'm gonna say check out the course. You can tell I'm just like
you're like having to restrain yourself. That you need a shot collar or something. Like you just. So I'm curious. I have this question real quick. Does it rely, like if you already had your router set up and you're just to add the IP address and maybe some login information, would it try to log in SSH? Will it rely on CDP information? Will it pull anything automatically from the device?
Again, one manual source of truth. So,
Gotcha.
again, I'm so glad you're asking these questions, because a lot of people come from like the SolarWinds or from, a lot of the other, discover your network things where it's going to try and figure out what's there. No, that is not the way to do network documentation well. And I know some people are like, down, they're holding their torches, Game of Thrones, down, burn them at the stake, like it's not heresy to say that, because if you've used automatic documentation systems, they're not you, right? What's there. And but Chuck, I've got to ask you, are you starting to get the feel how you can do all of this beforehand?
Yes. So I see that we're adding stuff. Like, we basically created a router without actually creating a router. So walk me through what happens next.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so what happens next is where we dive into the IP address management. Now, let's do this. I wasn't even planning on this, but let's do it. Chuck, this is true Jeremy style, which is just like, whatever, let's go there. So I showed you one way of doing it, right? I'm going to go to the coffee. So let's just say, we add some cable management right there. We'll just say it's cable management, manufacturer, Leviton.
Oh, we can't see your screen anymore.
Oh man, sorry. There. Better?
Amateur, come on.
So lame. So hang on, I'm back. I'm backing up. I'm going back. Okay, here we are. So I'm going to go to the rack, right? There's my rack. There's my coffee, MDF, Chuck's coffee. I so should have had a coffee thing like you, Chuck. I'm envious right now. So I can click on the rack. So I showed you adding a device right here through the devices. But you could go here and you could say, well, I want to add one right there. And let's just say I was adding some cable management. And we'll put in the device type. Will be, hang on, manufacturer, Leviton. We'll say it's a 2U patch panel, right? No other thing. I'll just say it's in there. Create. And just like that, I look back at the rack. Got myself a 2U patch panel, and that's where I'm going to run the cables, right? Add a device right underneath it. So I'm adding devices now just by clicking on the rack. It's kind of fun. I think it's fun. So I can go to switches. Let's just say it's a Cisco switch. We'll say it's a Cisco SG300 52-port switch. Put in all the serial number, blah, blah, blah. It already automatically filled in the rack information right there because I clicked on the rack to tell it where it's going. And I click on create, and boom, just like that, back at the rack, I got my switch there. Now I can start doing things. And again, if you want to, you can say, okay, I want to connect, gigabit Ethernet 0/0. That interface is now connected to the device right there. I didn't name it. It needs a good name. But we'll just say, gigabit Ethernet 0/1. What kind of cable? We'll say it's Cat5. Again, all of this being optional. How much do you want to put in? What is the length? What is the color of that cable? You can literally document everything about it, or that you're planning to do. And right there, it now shows this device right there is connected with this cable right here to this guy on gigabit Ethernet 0/1. If I hop on over there to that guy, you can also see this switch right here, gigabit Ethernet 1, connected. I'm going super fast on this kind of stuff. But this is I'm telling you, you can do all of this and as part of your planning phase. So in this, that's where you can start saying, okay, I'm going to add the IP addresses. So let's talk about IP addresses. That's actually, believe it or not, why most people come to NetBox.
So it's one of the killer features. Like, yeah, it's like IPAM is like that's what I already knew about NetBox before you mentioned it, and I didn't know everything else you said. But IPAM, let's hear about that.
Right, and that's the key thing is everybody comes for this, and notice I haven't even talked about this yet. I'm like, it does all of this other stuff, and then IPAM, and this is where you can go in. So let me show you from right here. This menu, by the way, you're looking at right on the screen, is only part of the features. Up here, so for instance, notice IPAM, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 options, right? Click the IPAM drop down, 1, 2, a lot more, right? A lot more options. So in here, this is where you can go, well, let's go to the routing information registries. Like, where are you getting these IP addresses from? RFC 1918, private IP addresses right there. And you can see I have a block from CenturyLink that I added. So that might be where you get your IP addresses from. Now you can go in and say, well, give me the aggregates. The aggregates are the large block of IP addresses. And notice right here, I put all the private IP address ranges in here by subnet. Right here, I've been adding a few 10 addresses, and you can see underneath, I've got 5 prefixes, but with the 16,777,214 IP addresses available. Come on, Chuck, you were impressed. I just rattled that off right there.
I was.
Thank you. I said that so many times. So okay, so with that many IP addresses, my 5 prefix haven't even broke the 1% utilization on this. But again, so let's go prefixes. Okay, so we're going to start setting up our IP addresses. So we come up with a scheme. We'll do 10.1.0.0/16 is going to be for our Texas, since you were the 28th state.
Is that true?
It is.
Where'd you get this information from? Like, do you just have a catalog of when every state became part of the union?
Chuck, didn't you take history class? Don't you?
I took it a long time ago.
I totally Googled it right before our presentation. So yeah.
Oh my gosh! Look at that preparer. Oh my goodness.
I know. So we'll say this prefix. This prefix is going to be Chuck's Coffee, Dallas. Now that's 65,536 IP addresses in that range. We're not going to use it all at that one location. This is kind of the bigger the summary range, right? If we want, we can start assigning VLANs and things like that. But let's create another. We'll do Arizona, 10.2.0.0/16. We'll say this is Arizona, the 48th state in the union, because nobody wants to move to the desert except me. We'll say that's Chuck's Coffee, Phoenix, and click on create, right? So now I've got, if I go back to my prefixes, notice I've got these 2 prefixes right here. So now let's add another prefix. I'll do our first office, right? 10.1.0.0/24. This is going to be, again, you can add roles, and if you're using virtual router forwarding instances, things like that, we're not doing any of this. This is going to be the Chuck's Coffee. Let's do Dallas PFX, right? That just so I can identify it from the list. It's a prefix. We're going to say this is at Chuck's Coffee, Dallas. We can assign VLANs if we want to do that. Click on create. So now, take a look at this. If I look back here, this is the main prefix menu. I can see right there, 10.1.0.0/16 is again the large subnet, if you will, for Texas. Matter of fact, I probably shouldn't have even assigned that. Let me edit that. Chuck, can you see how fast this is?
Yeah, it's. I don't even think people are truly appreciate. Most of the time in most companies I've been at, it's been managing IP addresses through spreadsheets. That's been the de facto standard forever. Mm-hmm. And to have a tool and yeah, you can get great IPAM management, but you pay for it. SolarWinds, you pay for it. This is awesome. It's open source. It means it's free, and you can just start using it right now in your house. I'm gonna start using this in my house. After we stop this video, I want to play with it. But that's so cool.
I'm telling you, Chuck. I'm going to steal it. Get IP address management right now. That's where I started using NetBox probably 3 or 4 years ago. In its early stages, I was like, this is sweet. I'm going to do this for my house. And I started doing all the VLANs and things. And it just kind of stuck. I was like, this is really, now I would be lying if I told you I used it every day since I was like, oh, that's cool. And it kind of went and retired. But as the author, Jeremy Stretch, kept adding features to it, I'm like, man, this is becoming more and more real. So once you do that, right now it's showing the collapsed view. I can click on expand, and I can see all the different subnets. Now, if you're in a big company, you're gonna fill up your screen. So you can click on the subnet and be like, okay, this is Texas. Click on the child prefixes, and right there's the first subnet that we gave to your coffee shop in Dallas, Chuck. And then below that, it's showing, hey, here's all the other ones that are available. Now notice the subnet mask. It's kind of getting bigger and bigger and bigger as you drop down, because it makes it easy to see just how many addresses are available. But if I was adding, what's Irving? That's by Dallas, right?
Yeah, that's close.
Yeah, so if I want to add this, I could take that prefix right there, allocate it to Chuck Coffee. I don't have a site for it yet. Irving, But the cool thing is, this is why I'm saying NetBox is so flexible. You could be like, oh, I haven't created the site yet for Chuck's Coffee in Irving, but yeah, it's all right. I'll just add the subnet right now. Go back to the prefixes. It's there. I can expand it, and then I can go add the site, and then come back here and add it in there. It's super flexible to be able to do things like that. And so now, as you look at the child prefixes, you can see, oh, okay, that one's eaten up. Now I can keep adding more and more and more as I go down. So, last thing from there. And this is, I said, didn't I say like 10 minutes? And here I am like.
Yeah. I think anybody who knows you, they're used to it. And if they're not, they know now.
I'm sorry. So I'm going to go back to my devices because they exist. And I can say, show me for the site, Chuck's Coffee in Dallas. Just do a quick search. Keep bouncing all over between Dallas and Phoenix. There we go. There's my router. Click on the router. Say, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm going to go in here and give good grief. I think with the rapid speed, I don't even remember what subnets are at what places. But I can say, this has the IP address 10.1.0.1, /24. That's the IP address. This will be the primary IP address for this device. Like when I see it in a spreadsheet, I want to see that IP address. Or maybe you make it the public. If you're doing NAT, you can show what IP address is being NATed to that device. Create. And so, okay. Promise, Chuck, really, I promise. So last thing, so the cool thing is it's showing this IP address, right? I can click on that IP address and it shows, oh, this is part of the parent subnet of this. So I click on that and I can see right there, oh, there's the IP address. Oh, you've got 253 IP addresses still available at that site. You can go in there, put in a range of addresses for DHCP blocks, things like that. I mean, it is super good. So I tried as concise way as I could to show what NetBox can do. And honestly, the only way you're going to really be like, yeah, is to use it again and again and move it to the front of the line. Instead of saying, okay, I'm going to design, deploy, and then document, move it to the front of the line. Document your plan. And it's it's like design/document, right? Mm-hmm. And then you get to deploy and you're done. Like it's you roll out exactly what you put in NetBox, and your documentation is complete. I mean, especially this is where I'm saying if you live the dream of NetBox, which is the single source of truth, and you let APIs do their thing, automate your device configuration, so good.
I wish I would have. It was probably around back when I was actually an engineer, but I just didn't know about it. I wish I would have had something like this because, yeah, I was a spreadsheet jockey just using that. Documentation was never up to date. It was the worst. So you use this in your production environment for your company. Does it have like backup features? Can you download backups, back it up to something?
Good question. Yeah. So now it's open source. So if you're like NetBox backup, there's a full recipe on exactly how to implement backups for NetBox, but it's on you to do that. I mean, maybe you're running NetBox in a VM, back up the VM, or it's something. So yeah, it is one piece of a much bigger puzzle, but you have to start with that piece. Otherwise, you end up exactly like you said. And Chuck, I'm so glad you said spreadsheets, because I can't tell you how many spreadsheets. Like, okay, this time, and I would create another spreadsheet with another favorite, and it would feel, and I'd spend hours creating a spreadsheet,
adding macros and making it all cool. Yeah,
Dude, you're exactly the same. I would do that, and it would be an awesome spreadsheet, and then I'd forget about it, and then 3 months later, I'm like, okay, and I'd look at it, I'm like, why did I do that? And I'm like, new spreadsheet. So anyway, NetBox just makes it so much easier.
Now, I have a few more questions, but before I do, guys, just in case you've joined late or something, Jeremy's talking about NetBox. It's a great way to document your network, not after the fact, which is what we normally do, which means we don't do it, but before the fact, while you're doing. Now, it is open source, and someone asked, how can I get it? Well, it's free. It's a free download. That's what open source usually means. But setup can be a task. It's not crazy hard, but you'll want to have someone walk you through the right way to do it, and that's why Jeremy has this course. We've got a discount in the description below. You get half off So it's normally $20. You get it for $10. So check it out in the link below. So a couple questions real quick. Someone asked, is it secure? And I saw another person ask, can it be offline only?
Is it secure? If you want it to be. If when you first roll it out, it runs over HTTP. So, that's where it's like, okay, do you want to add SSL to it? It literally runs just using a web server, and I think it's
Nginx, yeah.
And thanks from the Linux guy, Raspberry Pi guy. So if you want to turn on SSL on top of that, do it. If you want to access it over a VPN, do it. So you can secure it in that way. But obviously get it behind a firewall, things like that. Second thing was, say that again, Chuck?
Can it be offline only? Does it have to connect to the internet somehow, or does it have? Yeah, does it have to connect to the internet?
Totally not. As a matter of fact, the thing I just showed you is literally running in my house over there in my house MDF. So it's which is documented in NetBox, by the way. So it's it's completely offline. It is a standalone product. If you want to throw it up in AWS or Azure or something like that, yeah, you can do that all day. But it's actually built to be on a Linux machine. So again, that's why in the series, I know not everybody's a Linux master. That's why I created that little installing NetBox in 10 minutes video. Click the link below. It'll literally walk you through exactly how to get that set up really quick.
And you said it was Docker, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's great. That makes me more excited to deploy it. Okay, yes.
Chuck, when I found the Docker image for NetBox, because every time I would build it, I'd go through the manual build process.
Get the ISO or whatever you get. Yeah.
So that pain. It's just not good. And you get to the end where it's all supposed to work and it doesn't, and you're like, I'm going to bed. I'm done. I'm done. So yeah, the Docker image so much easier.
So that was NetBox. We do have a few super chats I want to go through real quick, if you don't mind, Jeremy, if you got the time.
Yeah, well, my thought is, I was just excited to show everybody that, but I mean, I'm kind of here to hang out and hang out. I've been watching the scroll of chat just fly by. So yeah, let's just hang out and answer whatever questions people have on anything.
Awesome. So the first super chat we have here is from a longtime follower. It's Saliha. She's been starting her own MSP, which you can really be familiar with, right? Mm-hmm. She says recently she got a contract from Tesla Norway for network support through her company.
Holy smoke!
Which is awesome. So congrats, Saliha. I know she's been asking for tips and stuff. She's been a long-time supporter of my channel, so that's amazing. And then you already answered Anthony's question from earlier, the super chat, but I'll throw it up here just in case anybody missed it. He was asking about, is it going to be good for MSPs? And the answer is like, well, yeah, because you use it in your MSP.
So let me can I just talk to both of those super chats for a moment?
Absolutely.
Because building an MSP, so like I said, it's the MSP is called VIA, VEEYA. It's a play on words, like via, like I got there via the side street. It's the way. That's what it means. And it is such a great group of people, but it was a learning process. Like, me coming from let me show you how to do this to like let me do this. Oh my word, processes, standards, and that's why I'm here talking about NetBox. Is I'm like, man, if you don't have a consistent way of doing this, you may be able to do it yourself as you're building an MSP, but then you're not building an MSP. You're just a guy or a gal that's doing stuff, and you can do whatever you want when you're doing that. But when you're trying to scale that thing, stamp it out, make it work consistently, that's what I'm saying. I've gone through the spreadsheet chaos, Chuck, and it just doesn't work.
No.
So yeah, for the MSP, NetBox gives you that standard, that engine, I should say, to build your standard for documentation.
Awesome. Now we have a question here from a longtime follower. This is Terry Esser. Thank you, Terry, for the super chat. I know he's been going through a rough time. He said, "Hey Chuck, as you know from last week, he was laid off from his job. And he's currently studying for the CCNA. Because in his job hunt, he's been seeing jobs requiring cloud and Python skills. Do you recommend going after AWS or Python after the CCNA?" Now, Jeremy, I know you're fairly, you're not totally new to the world of network automation and cloud, but you've been doing cloud longer than I have. You produced the AWS practitioner course like back in like 2009 or something like that, right?
Yeah, yeah. So Terry, first off, thank you for your honesty and your transparency. And I get it. Right now, it is hard. There's a lot of people that have lost jobs, and it doesn't make it any easier. That said, I would suggest going after AWS in addition to your CCNA as that perfect complement. Python, like, and Chuck, maybe you can help me here. Like, you don't usually go after Python. Like, you can, but it's more about like, oh man, bam, I hit a wall trying to make my router talk to AWS. What do I do? Oh, Python, and that makes it so much easier to learn versus like, okay, hello world. Okay, I did something, if then loop. Like it like learn that as you're charging the mountain to do something with it. That's the best way to learn Python. That's why I always say you're not a coder, you're not a developer. Even though you're doing code. So that said, if you learn AWS, there's just so many people looking for AWS folks, and Python's one of those things that you'll learn on that journey. Because AWS is a lot of scripting and a lot of like, okay, how do we tie these things together?
Yeah, and I definitely concur with that. Suggest. So like my brother went down the same path that you are trying to go down now, Terry. He got a CCNA, typical network engineer guy, wanted to become a cloud guy, so he got his AWS associate administrator. I can never say the acronym right. They have the worst names for the certifications, but he got that. I mean, he became an AWS guy, so that getting that certification paired with his networking skills was enough to get started down that path. But you better believe right now that he's there. He's learning Python because Python and scripting have become a huge use case where he's at. But Jeremy's absolutely right. You don't want to just go, I'm going to learn Python because Python's like this big. It's huge. So you want to find your use cases first. Start down at AWS, play with it, figure things out, figure out what a network looks like up in the cloud, because that's what you're going to be doing when you first start playing with stuff like that. And then Python will come into it to how you actually orchestrate things and make it work, and it becomes more fun. Yeah, anyway, Terry, good luck with that, man. And if you need any help, again, just reach out to us. I know you sent me a message on Discord, and I haven't looked at it yet, but I'll reach out to you here soon. Jeremy.
Oh, yeah, I'm in your Discord channel.
Oh, yeah.
I forget about that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm there now.
Let's go ahead and mention that real quick. So this is IT. We launched a free tier last week. Yeah, it was last week. So if you want to go check out This Is IT, I know we had Jeremy's course that you can go sign up for. It's on This Is IT, but we actually have a free tier. We have some free courses out there. Jeremy, what are the 2 free courses you have on there right now?
That's a good question. They're actually really good. Let me toot my own horn.
In my humble opinion, they're pretty great.
So they are. One of them is how to figure out what certification to take. And so, by the way, these courses, Terry, you mentioned that what you're thinking about. I built these 2 courses out of like after doing live stream after live stream and seeing so many questions. 2 common questions is, how do I figure out what my passion is, or how do I figure out what certification I should get? So one of the courses tells you how to do that, in a way. It's how to find your passion, which is a total misnomer. You will, if you're going to find your passion, coffee is a great one. Like, oh, that's good. I've got a passion, right? Like if you want to build your passion, that's what that course is all about. Like that's the way to do it. Because Chuck, you know just as well as I do, most new things you won't like when you first start doing it. It's when you get good at something. So that's what that course is about. So the second one is the best entry-level certifications in 2020, which I know is just coming to a close. I literally built that course a couple of months ago. It again, same kind of thing. It's like, okay, once you figure out like, here's how to find it. Okay, here's what I suggest. And that's where I talk about things like AWS. I talk about like, should I get like one of the CompTIA, like A+, Security Plus, those kind of things, which we should mention. So Chuck, myself, and David Bumble are actually building Security Plus together, which has been a blast.
Oh man, it's gonna be it's been so fun making it, and this course is gonna blow your mind.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion,
it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. But yeah, so that's the second free one. Is what what's the best certifications that I should get in 2020 or 2021? Got to get a new thumbnail for that. And why should I do that? So go check those out. I think you'll really like them.
Yeah, so as part of the free tier, you get access to those courses as well as some other courses we have on there. And then also you get free access to our Discord server, our Discord channel, which Jeremy, David, myself, and a bunch of other people are in there just helping you out. They have the same goal as you. I mean, we always say on this channel, the best way to advance your IT career is to network with people. Not just the networking technical side, but actually networking with people, getting to know people, helping people, and then asking for help yourself. It's not a solo journey, this IT journey. It's not. And the more you engage with the community, the more success you will find. That's exactly how it's going to work. So we'll be chatting there. We'll love to see you there.
Chuck, can I mention again? It literally is just a blur of comments.
Oh yeah, go for it. Whatever you want to address.
In the thing, but I saw somebody mention, how did you learn Linux? And can I make sure I mention? I'm going to try not to step on a soapbox. But Chuck, if I do, you're coming with me.
Just give me your hand. Lift me up.
we've had so many conversations on this soapbox. So learning Linux, it's kind of like learning Python. Don't do it. What I mean by that is like, look at the tool, NetBox, for example. It's what we're talking about in here. Like, in order to deploy NetBox, you're going to have to learn a little bit of Linux. I mean, little, like very, very tiny. Don't go take a course on how to learn. Here's my soapbox. This is the problem with colleges. Is oftentimes they'll be like, you need to learn computer science. By the way, that's my degree, Arizona State University, computer science. I went to go learn how to programming. I just said I went to learn. Anyway, that was intentional.
Which college you go to? Yeah.
So I literally went there to learn to program and hated life. I literally hated life. I was like, this must not be for me. I thought I liked technology. I hate it. I don't want anything to do. I literally left Arizona State University and went to work for Pizza Hut. That's my journey.
Wow.
And it wasn't until way later in life where I'm like, I'm stepping in and I see a main objective, right? Of like NetBox. Okay, I need to tie NetBox to PRTG. Oh, wait a sec. I got to figure out some coding to do that, And that's why I'm like, it's not coding. It's just like gluing them together. But in that process, you're going to learn Python. So don't learn things to learn things. Learn it to accomplish something, and it will be so much better. That's it. That's my soapbox in small form.
Well, and I will attest. So, I've dabbled in Linux for a long time, and I'll learn bits and pieces here. Now, I did get my Linux Plus certification, so I did learn Linux for the sake of learning Linux, and I did fill in some gaps, but man, I'll tell you this, I forgot a lot of what I already learned in that Linux Plus course, but I can tell you what I do remember are the things I like. Raspberry Pis. I mean, come on. When I'm doing stuff like this, I remember that stuff so well. And this is one of the best ways to learn Linux, I think, is grabbing a Raspberry Pi and then trying to do something with it. Just do anything. And I've got a million videos on how to do stuff, but anyways, Jeremy's exactly right. College sucks, and learn Linux as you go. That's my takeaway.
That's a great soapbox summary. Yeah, and I mean, looking at your house, you got Halloween decorations that are chiming every time somebody says something on you. I don't like those are cool things. Like it doesn't have to be like when I say do something, I'm not saying like go cure cancer or even roll out NetBox for your organization. It might be making your Halloween decorations jump every time somebody types something in a chat, which means you glued something together.
Let it be something stupid, no stakes in the game. It doesn't have to be high pressure. Just have fun with something that you've always wanted to do. And really, coding is kind of like magic. You can make anything happen. You just gotta, and someone else has probably already done what you're trying to do. Just Google it, work through it. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Anyways, soapbox, we're stepping down.
We're down.
So we get a super chat from a mutual friend, Mr. Ricky Cook.
Ricky.
He says, hey, gents, and I'm not going to try an Australian accent. I would butcher it.
Right.
Hey, I love your Australian accent, Jeremy.
That's about all I got. Right.
Hey, gents, this is awesome. Always love both your content. We couldn't survive without NetBox, Ansible, Git, Jenkins, Influx, DB, Grafana these days. That's a lot of words.
It is. It is. And Ricky is one of those guys that. So I've known Ricky for probably Ricky. I don't know how long's it been. So Ricky brought me and my wife to a Hillsong concert when they came out here to Arizona. That was before I had kids. That'd be like 15 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. Did I have kids? I don't know. But anyway, like Ricky is one of those guys that again, he started as an audio engineer, doing concerts, and he literally is like, I mean, the guy can run circles around me now on some of the stuff he's doing, bridging a worldwide network together. It is amazing. So Ricky is a perfect example of doing cool things instead of, and growing, because it's like, this is just getting cooler and cooler and cooler. So anyway, that's Ricky. Great to hear your name.
Absolutely. Always good to see you, Ricky. So we have another super chat from Heather Smiles, and we'll see if you know about this, Jeremy. Real quick, let me throw it up there. Okay, so she says, I'm late to the live chat. Have you covered how NetBox shines with integration with DCIM? And I was not exactly familiar with it. It has something to do with Cisco data center stuff.
Yeah, well, it's not necessarily Cisco. It's literally everything. Matter of fact, I'll show it to you right here. So if you go to NetBox, the main category right here, DCIM, Data Center Infrastructure Management. It's a generic term that Cisco uses it. It's essentially anything that's in a data center. This can manage. How many racks do you have? What are your device types? So Heather, yeah. Let me show it all to you again. But this is I mean, once we're done, go back to the beginning. I literally am showing you how to do that. So again, this data center infrastructure management. That's why I started here. Is most people jump straight for IPAM, the IP address management. And dive into that. And again, I just showed a little piece of that, but this can integrate into all kinds of things. But this is a phenomenal way of keeping your stuff straight. I mean, Chuck, I used to, and I still do, just because I think it's cool. Like when I go to the data center, and where are you? I lost you. Can you see me?
I'm here.
Okay, there you are. So when I go to the data center, I still take my phone and I'm like, taking pictures of the rack. I know everybody's like, you can't take photos in a data center. But you take that and you come back, because it always happens. Something will go down or something, and you're like, oh, and you pull up those pictures. Like, instead of doing that, literally, I probably have more pictures of data center racks than I have my own children on my phone, just because I'm always like, okay, I think it's about the same. Gone are those days. If you get it all in NetBox and you keep it up to, I mean, that's your motivation. Is you've got like a point and click GUI. It's not trying to assemble a spreadsheet. That's what you keep up to date. No more pictures all the way down, and you're like, I can't tell you how many times I'm like zooming in. I'm like, is that plugged into that? What port number? Like, it's just
I know. And like when something's down and I have to like call my data center, and then you have the remote hands guy who has to go like unplug something. I'm like, I'm not sure which one it is. Let me zoom into my picture.
Yep. And you're like, yeah. So NetBox, that's DCIM. That's it replaces all that, shows all the cable connect. I didn't even get into the power. What power? When you got remote hands and you're trying to power cycle. Bang. That's where it all comes.
That's awesome. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you, Heather, for the super chat. And I don't know if Jeremy, do you cover DCIM in your course?
I do.
Well then, Heather, check it out. $10 below with the code.
$10.
Come on, that's like 2 trips to Starbucks. That's half of what you would pay for my coffee. So go check it out. Super chat from Elias. Let me send that real quick. They are saying, hey, Chuck, I am more familiar with Azure. Is it as valuable as AWS? Should I pursue Azure deeper, or do I need to also learn AWS? So I'll talk about this real quick, because I do teach Azure at CBC Nuggets. No, you don't need to learn AWS. If you already know Azure, you're fine. I can tell you this: I learned Azure before I learned AWS, and it's not hard at all. It's just they call things differently. But as far as learning the cloud, it's an easy shift going from Google Cloud to Azure, Azure to AWS. Also, it depends on where you're at. So where you're at, it might be more valuable for you to know Azure. I mean, Azure is getting up there as far as popularity. I think, man, if it's a Microsoft shop, they're going to be probably going with Azure. A lot of companies use both. Multi-cloud is something we see all the time now. You got Azure, you got AWS. One service is more financially viable than the other service, so they'll just use both and they can mix it up. So knowing one cloud provider is good enough, and it's easy enough to translate those skills to any other cloud provider. It's kind of like learning Cisco and being able to go work on Juniper stuff. It's going to be a little different, but you already know the concepts, so it's simple enough.
Yeah, you nailed it. You nailed it. It's yeah. I would be echoing exactly what you said. So let me do that right now. So I learned AWS before I learned Azure. But I jumped into Azure because we use Azure at my company because we're a Microsoft shop, and I was like, oh, it's knowing the concepts, and it's like, oh, okay, that's where it is. It's whichever one you start with, totally fine.
Although I will say I don't know if you agree with this, Jeremy. I actually like Azure better. I think it's prettier and nicer.
Yeah, if you like pretty and slick, it is. But the funny thing is, there's a whole group of people that don't like pretty and slick. They're like, give me functional, and give me code. AWS is a lot. It hits that market a lot. Yeah, that's
betterer.
There's that college again.
ASU? Okay, yeah, let's not.
Don't go to that one.
All right, a super chat from MC Mikey. He says, is there a site to learn how to make spyware? Is there a way to access devices only with Bluetooth or Wi-Fi? How do I clean traces after hacking? So MC Mikey, I'm going to say I'm not going to tell you any of that because we are ethical hackers only in this realm. We will show you how to protect yourselves from spyware. There are courses that will show you how to be a penetration tester, maybe even generate stuff like that, but it has to be ethical, only ethical. So there are courses like the OSCP, which will teach you offensive security. There's a CEH, which is penetration testing. Most of the time, we're looking at not trying to cover our tracks. We're trying to help a company identify their weaknesses. That's the only thing I can condone and agree with. So anyways, that's all I can tell you. Thank you, MC Mikey, for the super chat. Yeah,
that was a super chat. I'm like, wow. I'm well done, Chuck. I'm not even sure how I would have approached answering that one. I was like, that was a combo question.
Just don't hack anybody. I'm saying no. Super chat from Bogdan says a non-traditional student work / full-time and studying to get my Associate of Arts in Network Technology. I got my A+ working on Network Plus, then Security Plus. What job role would you recommend? Junior sysadmin. Final goal is to become CSIR or /purple team, which is a mix of red teaming and blue teaming on the offensive defensive security. So I guess, okay, let me sum the question up. Working on their associate degree, has A+, working on Network Plus, then Security Plus, good certification. What job role should be the first one? Junior system admin? Jeremy, what do you think?
Wow. Judging from the goal, just here. So I'm trying to assemble what I heard you say on what education you have, what certs you have, what you're going after. I'm like, I mean, you could. So here's the thing. Every business needs people like you. That are going after security, that have just a breadth of experience. What I would say is find one. Find a business and start there, because every business is going to need security at some point. And if that's what you want to grow into, I mean, to get into the door, it sounds like you don't have much work experience. Just find a starting place. I mean, you start looking around at some companies. I'm like stabbing my hand. Look around at some companies and be like, yeah, that one, and really hone in on them. And don't go after like a spray and pray like resume strategy, which a lot of people do. Literally hone in on places that you're like, that would be cool. Like, so I'll give you some examples. Working at a school, a university, would be a great place. Working at a managed service provider, like a couple people on this call, like talk about an eclectic mix of technology. That's where you'll find it. Working at I mean any like where they need like hands and feet, like a data center, like PetSmart. Where you go to all the different. I was talking to the guy. It was fresh in my head because I was talking to the network architect of PetSmart, and he's like, "Yeah, every single one of our stores, we hire people that drive around and they handle a lot of the our cash register stopped working, et cetera, et cetera." So it's just a place where you can just break in. The reason I'm saying this is because I'm trying to avoid you becoming the lifelong student. A lot of times I see people investing a lot of time getting a lot of certs or a degree and then another degree and another degree, and it doesn't benefit you long. Like it's like, okay, just get enough, just enough to get in that door.
Oh,
And then,
yes.
And then work to say, okay, what does that company need? Oh, they have a shortage in network stuff. So I'll go after Network Plus or CCNA or they really, man, they're talking about. So let that employer then guide where you go next. And once you follow that lead, then the sky's the limit.
Oh, there's so much good advice in what you just unpacked there. Because first of all, getting too cert heavy, trying to get your CCNP before you even get that first entry level job, don't do that. Most of IT education happens on the job. That's why this industry is amazing, because you don't have to go to school. Many people don't even have certifications or a degree. They learn so much from their first jobs, and they progress through, and they're engineers and architects, and they don't have anything to their name but that experience, and that's worth its weight in gold. But yeah, I think it's great advice also because you have aspirations to become that purple team person where you're doing red team and blue team, offensive, defensive, and that sounds cool right now, but you may not like that in the future. Like you may not actually like that. So getting and on the ground floor of a company and working your way through whatever they have security wise or whatever, you might find something that you love more, and you'll just go right down that path. So yeah, fantastic advice, Jeremy. And we've got more super chats coming in. Let me refresh my page here. Thanks everyone for hanging out. If you are just tuning in here, we talked about NetBox, which is awesome. If you want to learn more about that, rewind. That's how this thing works. Or go buy Jeremy's course. And I already gave away the Raspberry Pis. I announced the winners. Go check the page or rewind again. See rewind before. So we got a super chat from Felix. Let me throw it up here real quick. Felix. And Jeremy, how much time we got? I don't want to keep you too long,
I was
buddy.
just gonna mention I'm gonna get my kid to his baseball game, so I've got about 10 minutes left, and then I've got a bolt. So yeah, let's hit it hard for 10 minutes.
I was about to go like 12-hour stream, and then I remembered Jeremy has life, so and I do too. So better be cognizant of that. Okay, so super chat from Felix. He says, "Oh, thanks for bringing me back into my old love of Linux." You're welcome, Felix. So that was a long build-up to just that fun little comment. Thank you, Felix. We got a super chat from Isaac. So I want to make sure I show you guys some love and put you in the limelight here real quick. Isaac, how do I hack on Ethernet? Well, there's network hacking, which you can do all kinds of stuff. You can hack layer 2. You can use your Cynia to mess with CDP on Cisco. Tons of tools. Get Callie, David Bombal, and myself, and Jeremy. I mean, you're about to work on. You're working on that right now, aren't you? In Security Plus.
I am.
Yes.
Some of the things I was thinking about was, obviously, super broad question. How do I hack on Ethernet? I'd say things like Wireshark. I mean, capturing network data, doing scans, Nmap. Scanning to see what's open on an Ethernet segment. You could, search for vulnerabilities. Once you, and it all starts with initial scanning of what's on that Ethernet segment, or on that network, if you want to go bigger than just one subnet. And then, once you do an initial scan, that's where you start looking and go, okay, what is that device? What is that device? What is that device? That's where, again, the sky's the limit. You can start searching for vulnerabilities and say, okay, it looks like in that train of code, they've got a vulnerability. Have they patched that? Let me check. Oh, there's a way in. And so and obviously we're all ethical here. So once you find that way in, you're like, flag, I just, scored a point. There's a vulnerability on that device. You need to patch it. Or someone like me will be able to get in there quite easy. So yeah, how do I hack on Ethernet? Super broad, and hopefully my answer was just as broad but useful.
Yeah, he's absolutely right. I mean, the first step in any good hack, and when I say good hack, I mean you're an ethical, you're a good hacker, and you're either helping to expose your own weaknesses or a company's weaknesses, and they're paying you for it, and they give you permission. There's an NDA. You have all this stuff set up. Otherwise, it's illegal. You can go to jail. It happens. Did I give enough disclaimer? Okay, I think we're good. Yeah, so the first step in hacking is gathering information, learning what you're dealing with. Because sure, you can try this vulnerability and this vulnerability. That's like needle in a haystack. First, see what you're doing here. See what's happening. And Jeremy's exactly right. Nmap is amazing. I get a video on that, and Jeremy's going to be producing some stuff on that in the Security Plus, so check that out. We got one more super chat I'm going to address, and I'll let Jeremy get to his family. It's actually Saliha again. Saliha is amazing. She's got a question. She says, what should be next for her? So she's been watching me and also Ryan Benny, who's another YouTuber who produces CCNA content, networking content. So she has this company. She's working with Tesla, which is so cool. What do you think should be her next step? And I guess this is more for you, Jeremy, because you have the MSP. Obviously, you can't speak to too much because you don't know exactly what her operation looks like, but I know it's fairly new for her. What would you say?
That's a good question. So I'm going to state it a little more generically. I think it's so cool that you landed a contract with Tesla just because I love the company.
Jeremy has a Tesla, and it's amazing.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. So yeah, I drove Chuck around in my Tesla, and it is a trip. It's fun. Let me say it generically for you. You've got the initial client, which is actually one of the toughest things when you're getting started, is like, okay, who do I find and how do I service them without sacrificing my soul? What I mean by that is you're gonna, as you step into here, I'm gonna step back here. I'm walking towards the camera. So back here, you've got nobody, right? And the first one that you land, you're like, oh, cool, I see some opportunities. I can do that, and you start servicing them, and it's working well. And then before long, you're with that one client. You're like, oh, I've got some more opportunities, and more, and more, and more. And before long, you've spread so super thin that you're kind of good at a lot of things, but great at nothing. And so what you end up doing is because you're only good at a lot of things, you're just like running over here and then running over here, and you're like, oh, and because you didn't do it perfect. You know what I mean? So you're patching holes with a lot of things. So I say all that to say, as you start journeying on this MSP, find your thing. What are you really good at? And get better and better and better until it's awesome. There's a guy I just started following on Twitter, Riley something.
So at Riley something, go follow that guy.
Guy named Riley. When I followed him, it sticks in my head because he tweeted back. He's like, "Hey, I learned CCNA from you like 10 years ago." I'm like, "Awesome." So what he did. So let me tell you, his MSP, he calls it something as well. Riley does something with something. Oh wait, no. Got it. Hostify. He calls it Hostify. We're giving a pretty big push for him right now. I don't even know Riley, but he took the CCNA 10 years ago. But he hosts Ubiquity controllers really well. So I know, Chuck, you've done a couple streams. I've done some on Ubiquity. Fun little vendor, makes really good stuff really cheap. And they give away their controller for free, and businesses start using it, and they're like, this is a thing. Now I got to maintain this controller, right? So that's all Riley does is he hosts controllers for Ubiquities. Man, I'm falling over myself. So he hosts controllers really well. Like, he patches them at the right time. He tests everything to make sure it's not going to be like explode or anything like that. And he's killing it. His business, so I'm sure if you search for Hostify, you'll find him. But he's kind of reporting how his business is growing. It takes time, but he's found his niche, and he's kicking it. I mean, he's owning that host a unified. I mean, Chuck, think about that. How
I
simple is it to host a unified? Like, I'm like, dang it, why didn't I think of just
I know. I
hosting a
mean, you
unified
can
controller?
host that sucker on a Raspberry Pi. I mean, gosh, let's get a Kubernetes cluster going, and we'll just do that. That sounds fun.
Right, right. Like, and he literally is building an entire business out of that. So I conclude my statement is the temptation is going to be like, oh, let me go wide and do all of these things, and you can do that. But in the end, if you just hone in on like the key to being happy in life is to do fewer things better than doing everything halfway. So that's where I would go with your Tesla client in wherever you said that was, is find out what you can do for them really well and then replicate that for other people, because chances are really good there's going to be a lot of people that need whatever Tesla needs. So do
Oh
that
yeah.
well rather than getting dragged into like, oh, I think I can do that too, and that too, and that too, and before long, you're doing a lot of things not so well.
And I would imagine going your method is a lot less stressful because
Yes.
you don't have to
And it,
keep up with all the different areas of knowledge and all the different changes. You're just focusing on one thing and all the changes in that thing, which can be more than enough for IT.
Totally. Yeah. And I want to make sure everybody hears me. I'm not being like, because I'm the man. I know, like, I went wide, I'm telling you from years of blood and pain. I'm not sure how the blood got in there, but from pain that I went through, to go, yeah, let's do fewer things really well rather than doing a lot of things not so well. So yeah, it's a learning process for sure.
Excellent. Well, I think that's all we have time for today. There actually was one more question. They said, is a Security Plus a good certification to get first? And I would say it should be one of the first you should get. I think A plus should be one of the first. Like if you're brand new to IT, like if you don't know how to repair a computer, if you don't know how to fix your own computer, if you're not the resident IT person in your family already, I'd say A plus, and the Security Plus will be one of those next certifications. And you're in luck. Me, Jeremy, and David are working on one right now, posting it free here on YouTube week by week. And if you can't wait, we'll have it on This Is IT and Udemy coming soon. Jeremy, any closing words of wisdom before you go off and enjoy your family?
I don't think so. This has been a blast. I mean, how often do you get a quasi captive audience that just gets to hang out and you get to show them cool stuff like NetBox? So it's been fun, and Chuck, obviously anytime we hang out we have a blast. So
Oh yeah.
great
So
great to see all of you as well. I've seen a lot of the chats coming through where a lot of people saying hey, so great to see you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. This is fun.
yeah, and just end capping this, if we talked about Netbox today, which is amazing. I'm not going to go into it because we already talked about a lot of it, so rewind. And if you want to check that course out that Jeremy has for it, link below. You get half off with the code Netbox is awesome. And it's $10 at the end of the day. It's totally worth it. Check it out. And if you want to follow Jeremy on any of the stuff he has, he's on YouTube, Twitter, LinkedIn, and everywhere. So I got links below for that. Anyways, thanks, Jeremy, and thank you everyone for hanging out with us today. We'll catch you guys next All right, just like any good Marvel movie, here we are with a good end credit scene. I always reserve the end of my streams for people who hang around. I give you some free coffee. So I'm giving away a $20 gift card to my store, NetworkChuck.coffee. It's going to be free coffee, or you can buy a mug. I've got mugs for sale as well. So if you drink tea, if you're in the UK, that's cool. Mugs will work there too. Anyways, I'm going to post a little code here in the chat worth $20. The first one who uses it, you get it, man. You got to be quick. So go ahead and get to NetworkChuck.coffee. Get your cart ready. I'm going to paste it right now. You ready? Now, real quick, before I do this, shout out to the This Is IT members we have. If you don't know what that is, I was kind of playing on the end screen. That's the This Is IT Army members. They help us do more of this. They help me, David, and Jeremy create content that's low cost and most of the time free for you guys. So if you want to go, we would love for you to come join us for free and hang out. We also have tiers where you get access to more stuff, and you help us do more things like this. So anyways, I'm going to stop talking about that. Here comes the code. Free coffee. Ready, set, and go. Anyways, that's all I got, guys.